Hi everyone, welcome to episode 104 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Robbie Furze of The Big Pink about The Love That's Ours, their first studio album in 10 years. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Irish artist Ro about her debut album, That's When the Panic Sets In.
It's another thing I think that creatives especially have issues with. I only heard the term imposter syndrome a couple of years ago and it made a lot of sense. It felt like finally putting a name to this feeling that I was having, and it was basically after being on the road for so long, I get these dips where I kind of feel like I wasn't in the room. It was all enjoyable and the excitement was there, but it eventually, I don't know, there was this weird underlying feeling of, well, why me and why am I here? And, you know, is this going to last forever? You know, basically. And that's the feeling of imposter syndrome. So to kind of get these feelings out in the open, I wrote it all down on a page and tried to explain it to myself that it comes and goes, and I'm still working out a way to deal with those feelings and reassure myself that this is where I'm supposed to be, and you know, I'm doing the right thing. So Cold Feet is just all about that, and it's for anybody that feels the same and goes through the same things as I do. Yeah. So
check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe for free and share with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
In the reviews section, Michael Barron has been listening to Dropkick Murphys' new album, This Machine Still Kills Fascists. The Celtic punk legends were given access to unreleased lyrics written by Woody Guthrie and used these across the album. Michael says it's a dignified and honourable tribute to Guthrie, as Dropkick Murphys expertly find the balance between their own sound and Guthrie's folk. 8 out of 10. There's new music streaming on the site from excellently named Cork band Emperor of Ice Cream. London-based Pretty Sick have released their new album, and there's new music from Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Head to our gig section for the latest tour dates from Bono, who's taken on a 14-date run to mark the release of his memoir. Paul Heaton and Jackie Abbott will tour Ireland in February 23, and there's new dates from Dermot Kennedy and Tori Amos. Ryan McMullen will reopen the legendary Mandela Hall in Belfast later in October. All the details are at xsnoize.com.
After making a rapturous comeback earlier this year with their stunning new singles, No Angels and Love Spins on Its Axis, The Big Pink have released their long-awaited third studio album, The Love That's Ours. In this interview, Robbie Furze talks about writing and recording the album, his time spent in Los Angeles, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Robbie Furze of The Big Pink. So hi Robbie, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hi, good to be here.
Going back to the start, can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
I would say it was probably maybe NWA. I remember getting Straight Outta Compton, like on cassette, I think. I guess I must have been maybe 7 or 8, maybe something like that. Like, and it was like, I just remember putting it on in the car, coming back from school with my mum driving and just loving the swearing and, you know, like the aggression. And it was just, and I remember just thinking, God, this is just the coolest music in the world. But yeah, I think that was it. I mean, that between that and then moving between that and I think I had 3 cassettes that I listened to in my dad's cassette player, and it was Straight Outta Compton, it was Michael Jackson Bad, and Madonna True Blue. Those three cassettes were on continual circulation.
Yeah, all three great albums, actually.
Yeah.
I had those three myself, actually.
I did.
Yeah.
True Blue is a great album. There were really some beautiful songs on that. It was a really, I haven't ever even thought about that record for years and years and years, but it's a great record.
Yeah, and so was Bad. Love Bad.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, Bad. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was just so cool at that point, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely fantastic. So what made you decide, right, I'm so influenced by music, I want to pick up a guitar, I want to learn music?
I mean, I think that it was like, I started kind of getting into, I can't remember what it was like. There were a couple of things, like, Mum had a lot of records, and I tell you one cool thing that happened was that where I lived in West London, there was, like, West London at that point, we're talking like, early 80s, was pretty rough, you know what I mean? It's, even like W11, which is now pretty expensive, like W11, my parents first moved into like Holland Park and Ladbroke Grove. It was like, it was pretty rough. It was like a sort of, you'd have like, my parents had a house, but you'd have the house next door would be squatted. The house next door, that would be derelict. You know what I mean? I still remember punks on the corners and rubbish everywhere. And, it was pretty rough. You wouldn't want to you wouldn't want to go out at night. It was a bit touch and go. But the cool thing was that Killing Joke, actually, they squatted in the house next to my mum and dad's house, and they rehearsed in my in the room next to my bedroom, and it kept me awake. So I'd get Killing Joke coming through the wall. So when I first listened to, like, that was like my first experience of like real guitar music, because I had all, like, I think Jazz used to come round. He kind of fancied my mum and used to come around and give my mum singles. So I had all these early Killing Joke singles, and my dad hated him and would tell him to shut up the whole time. But anyway, so that was pretty cool. So I had all these early Killing Joke records, which was like my first experience of like cool guitar music. I mean, I definitely, then got into kind of, bands like, Guns N' Roses, obviously Appetite for Destruction just blew me away. And then things like, Jane's Addiction, like, it was like this whole kind of like, it was all, these like Slash and Dave Navarro and like, these kind of, a bit of Motley Crue thrown in there, that kind of era. And then going into like, Metallica, it was just, huge, I'm a massive Metallica fan. I remember my dad, one of his friends at work had a guitar they didn't want, this Ario Pro 2 guitar. And I remember he bought it round and he gave it to me, and I was just like, wow. And the guitars are so beautiful as a piece, as a piece, you know what I mean, rather than just the playing of it. And I remember just looking at it, I have no idea how to play it or even begin to play it. And Dad got me a little amp, and that was me, like, screaming away, thinking I was in Guns N' Roses.
Well, all that there comes across, obviously, in the Big Pink. I mean, you're about to release your third album, The Love the Sours. It's your first in 10 years. And in that time, your musical partner Milo left, and you moved to LA. You became a DJ. You had your own club night.
Yeah.
So Milo left after a tour of Asia, if I'm correct. So what happened?
Yeah.
Why did he leave the band?
Milo was never as enthusiastic for touring as I was. Like, Milo didn't really come from a very like for want of a better word, like physically musical background. Like, he's obsessed with music. He had his own singles label that he put out, like a lot called Me Rock, which was like his early Klaxons and I think this 7 inches were put out on that label. So and he's always been obsessed with music. His dad was quite a famous producer, and so it was in his blood. But so music he loved, but the actual physical, mechanical side of it, the touring, which is, if you don't love touring and you don't love playing live, it's fucking awful. You know what I mean? It's exhausting. You're away from your family. You don't make much money. It's like, it's a tough existence, being on the road. And he never really enjoyed that. So I kind of, sort of dragged him around a little bit, and but what he did love about but he I mean, he loved the music, but I mean, what I guess he really he said to me really at the end, he goes, look, I've just done it. I played Wembley Stadium. I've toured the world 3 times. I mean, I've been to Japan. I've done he's listing the stuff that we've done. And he goes, you know what? I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'm good. You know what I mean? I want to do something else, and I was like, fair enough. You know what I mean? And it kind of, I had a bit of the same kind of feeling. I was like, you know what? Well, maybe I'll just have a little break as well, but maybe we'll go our separate ways and see what happens. And that was it really. There was no bad blood or there was nothing that he just felt he'd done it. I said I hadn't done it, but I was happy just to kind of walk away for a bit, and he was going to have to walk away. And that was it really. But we're still really close friends. We grew up together. So it was, it was definitely not a bust up in any way, shape or form.
And in your mind, did you think that you would still carry on sometime down the line with the Big Pink?
Yeah, I always felt like I had, when Milo's reaction of like, well, I've played Wembley Stadium, I've done this. And I said, well, we supported news at Wembley Stadium. I want to headline Wembley Stadium. So I'm not done. You know what I mean? And I said, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to take this, up, carry on, take this up a level. So in the back of my head, I always, thought I was, that this was going to be the future for me. That I was going to do, do another record. And I, in my opinion, like, getting to LA was like, my kind of fresh start, and, I went there with the intention to write the 3rd record. That was kind of my impetus was to get there to do that record, or this record, But yeah, that was, I always knew that it was going to come back to me at some point. I had more to say. I felt like I felt that we did such a great job on the first record. And I feel that the second record was good, but it just didn't quite, deliver for me personally. So I felt like I needed to sort of take take the first record to the next, or the Big Pink sound to the next level. I thought I hadn't really achieved it at that point, which I hope I've done with a new record.
Oh yeah, you certainly have. But you mentioned the first and second record. I mean, I love The Brief History of Love.
Thank you.
Dominoes was such a great track. It was the international smash hit single that introduced me to the Big Pink. But right. I preferred Future This. Give it.
Oh, nice.
What a track. And that's what surprised me that you and Milo didn't. I read that you and Milo didn't like it as much, but I think it's a better album.
Oh, amazing. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not common for me to hear that. Like I always felt like, I guess it's difficult. You kind of blame, it wasn't as successful as a Brief History of Love. So I guess you kind of like, maybe I'm blaming that record, for not delivering what Brief History of Love did for us. And, maybe it had nothing to do with Brief History, Futures. Maybe we'd just seen it, we'd had our kind of peak of who we were, and we were just in a natural dip, so maybe it is unfair for me to blame that record. But, the thing is, I think that, there was just a kind of, there was a sort of slight, I don't know. And I guess we didn't rush the record, but we did it in about 6 months. You know what I mean? We wrote it in 6 months, then we recorded it in 6 months. So it was like, the first album, we'd taken a good year to write it, and then it was, and then we took about 5 or 6 months to do it in New York, and it was just a different experience.
The typical difficult second album syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're all up in your head. You're not sure where this is going to go. You've got huge expectations about what you're going to do and where you want the record to take you. And if it doesn't deliver, you just blame the music. And it's maybe that wasn't a fair assumption. Because great songs on that record. And maybe you have a little bit of a love affair with your first record, because that's the one that made you a success.
Well, I like it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So when you got to LA, did things pan out the way you wanted at the start? Because I know you ended up becoming a DJ and having your own club nights. Yeah,
it was like I definitely was running away from England, because I think it was, the guitar band was very much like, guitar bands was a dirty word around 2014, 2015. Indie music had taken a real dive, and like there was just absolutely no love for this our sound, and it was really difficult. So I was kind of running away from that, and a lot of other people were running away from that. There's a lot of people from London moving over there, people from New York moving over there. And, I sort of felt like there was a scene about to happen in LA. And it never really panned out I thought I was going to walk into, like New York in the late 70s, early 80s kind of vibe, you know what I mean? But it never quite got there. But it had the feeling at the beginning, 2015. I moved over there with Jamie Hince from the Kills, and we both had the same kind of feeling, that this was the place we needed to be. And, it was great. But when I got there, it was, it just blew my mind. It was every night there was something going on. It's absolutely insane. Nightlife is night after night after night. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday, Monday, you know what I mean? There's, you can walk into a bar, a club, it's heaving, everyone's out, and there was a real change up in energy. And, I kind of definitely got caught up in more of the nightlife aspect, and I was DJing trap music in a bar in LA, in the hot East Hollywood, every Tuesday night, and there'd be like 200-300 people there every Tuesday night, and I was it wasn't what I was expecting, and then the DJing kind of snowballed. I got headhunted to do another night in another bar, and then I ended up, someone gave me a bar that I was running like 6-7 nights a week. And then, so it kind of snowballed, and suddenly I was like a DJ club promoter, and, still writing music, but there's definitely the balance shifted a little bit, because it wasn't really until, actually, I can't blame that kind of the nightlife stuff, because that's how I met Wolf Alice, and that's how we went on tour with Wolf Alice. And but doing a tour with Wolf Alice was the thing that actually kickstarted me into sort of going like, right, now we've got to finish the Big Pink record. This is what I love doing. Let's finish the record. Let's get back on tour, and let's sort of, stop the fucking around with the DJing and whatever. Do you know what I mean? No, I mean, look, I still love DJing. I've always did. I DJed on the first and second record. I've been DJing for quite a long time, but that was definitely the catalyst to kind of go, right, let's do this, because deep down in my heart, this is what I needed to do, and I knew that.
So in 2016. You put out the 4-song EP, Empire Underground. Was that initially the beginning of maybe a new album?
Yeah, I had actually written an entire record in 2014, 2015 with this amazing songwriter and producer Dave McCracken, who he wrote a lot of stuff with Ian Brown stuff. He wrote Fear with Ian Brown. Wow. We sort of befriended each other and started working on this record in Psalm Studios in off Portobello Road. And I had this, we had 11 tracks, 12 tracks, whatever. And we got a deal, with this small independent label in America, and I orchestrated it to move to LA. So I'd come there with an EP, and, this is why I was going over there. And then, so, but the thing is that I didn't realize is what, like, the deal was 2 EPs. So to cut the record in half, put out half of it first, and I stuck all the good songs on the first half of it. So the second half was a bit boring, a bit of like a sort of filler. So it's like, the little label were like, well, kind of front loaded this one, so that kind of screwed everything up. So I was like, all right, we'll write some more. Anyway, the little label kind of didn't kind of dissolved itself, and I had a bit of a management issue, but so it was sort of like, I was like, all right, well, back to the drawing board, really, like the EP. And I Empire Underground, I love. I mean, High Times is one of my favorite songs. We still play that live. It's one of my favorite tracks on that we do live. And it's, I love it. I wrote with Andrew Wyatt, who does he was in Mike Snow, on a couple of those songs on Decoy and Empire and the song Empire Underground. And even The Beautiful Criminal was a bit of a departure for me, but I love that track. So, that was, and we did a lot of touring on that as well. Played a lot. I was in LA. I was always doing the odd show as well, just to keep myself sort of, match fit. So even though I was DJing a lot, like it was always like, all right, every month or so I do a show just to kind of keep it going.
So when did you finally get around to writing the songs for The Love That Sours? Did you go in there and with any preconceived ideas, the kind of songs you wanted to write about and the sort of sound you wanted?
Well, I thought to myself, like, right, look, let's get this really right. So let me do a lot of, let's get back to, I started listening to Brief History of Love again, like really listening to it and trying to figure out, like, what was it about that record that was so special to me, and what was it that, what is the Big Pink sound, and then I think to myself, like, where can we really take this? And is there, avenues that we can explore and develop on and all that kind of mindset. And I was so charged by playing, because that Wolffellas tour, we did about 40 shows, maybe over 40 shows. So I was so charged up to deliver this, to get back in there, And I wanted it to be a rock record. I wanted it to be guitars, and it had to be songs. I was like, if I'm going to do this, we're going to make them the best written songs we can do. I'm going to look at the theory of songwriting. I want to work with as many different people as possible. I hate writing on my own. So my manager at the time, I was saying, like, can you just put me in the room with as many different types of genres of artists and songwriters, and let me, like, I want to work with pianists. I want to work with, maybe more pop producers. I want to work with, like a, guitar, like acoustic play, things I get out of my box a little bit, understand what, how other people write songs, and try and learn, like, the real confines of, the best way of structuring because, I always think the Big Pink songs are pretty pop, and, we are pop related, so let's really understand how to write a pop song or write a song, So that's kind of what we did. And when I say we, I said me. I worked with this girl called Rin Weaver, who's a pop star, and she had a big record out in 2014, 2015, and she's just incredible. I mean, amazing pop lyricist and incredible melodies, and the kind of juxtaposition between my background of kind of more noise and sort of more out there programming and stuff with her kind of more pop sensibilities. There was a nice little balance between that, and and then a bit more muso kind of people would tell me, you got to play this chord here before the chorus, because then the chorus lifts and all that kind of stuff. So I went in, I really wanted to, like, if we're going to do this, let's absolutely not let one stone unturned here. Let's go into real detail. And that's really with Tony Hoffa. I said the same thing to him, and it's so meticulous, the record. But then, I was very aware that I didn't want to, take away, the punk element, because I always think that there's a Big Pink had a punk sensibility, because punk music was punk and hip hop was my heritage. If we go back to talking about, West London in the early 80s as punk, that was where it was in my blood. So it was so important to keep that kind of the thrill and the spontaneity that punk has, but with all this detail and stuff. So that was kind of how I'm hoping the record comes across. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Let's talk about some of the songs, actually.
Mm-hmm.
First single from the album was No Angels, and the first Big Pink track in a decade. Why did you put that out first? Did you think it was the song that represented the album the most?
Yeah, I did. I felt like it was like, it had that kind of combination of sort of, you know, kind of soul track, you know, like, you know, because we were heavily influenced by Stax Records and, you know, Otis Redding and, you know, the Crystals, Ronettes, you know, like Sam Cooke, you know, like Smokey Robinson, you know, and I just felt that had a kind of, and, you know how that kind of merges into kind of Jesus and Mary Chain, you know, with big guitars. And I just felt like, we had this kind of, you know, Be My Baby Bliss. It had this kind of like a little bit of a doo-wop kind of feel to it, perhaps, you know, but with big guitars. And then I found this amazing sample from this band Bad Cop called, from a song called Light On that I listened to on the radio driving in my car in LA. And I built the song around this sample, and I just thought, like, it's so instant, this sample. When I heard this sample on the radio, I was like, fuck, what is this? Do you know what I mean? And then, like, so I thought, well, look, if it did that to me and I can sample it, it might do that for other people. And then you build another song around this sample, you know, maybe we've got, you know, and it was just a really exciting song, one of my favorite songs. And I felt I had a good attitude to the lyrics, you know, like, talking about, you know, being, you know, lost in America or in LA, and, you know, and missing, you know, the loves that were left at home, kind of thing. So it just seemed like the natural first track.
And you mentioned Jesus and Mary Chain. The song Murder is definitely a nod to Jesus and Mary Chain. It just really jumped out at me.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like, you know, the Just Like Honey drum beat, you know, which is, you know, the Ronettes, you know, Be My Baby, you know, like, it was like, you know, the doom, 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 you know, it's like, that is the Big Pink sound. We did that all over the first record. And I was like, that has to resurface on this record. So it was like, let's just do that. You know what I mean? And I was like, I wrote it with this guy called Liam O'Donnell in London, and we were just having fun with it. We were like, can we start with this beat because it makes us feel, you know, and let's see, you know, let's listen to some Jesus and Mary Chain, and it's like, let's get back to that influence, you know, let's just really just like hone in and plug into Jesus and Mary Chain, and I hope I haven't gone too far with that song, but I think that, you know, for me, it makes me smile because it's like, they're so important to me, Jesus and Mary Chain, and all those elements they just make me smile. And then I felt there was a bit of a Clash vibe coming from the chorus a little bit. So there's like a little bit of a punk twist on it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But, yeah, it was a nice combination of some of my favorite artists getting in there.
And Safe and Sound, what a song. From what I gather, it's about how you got caught up in a negative way in the LA lifestyle. I love the lyric, dancing with these vultures in my fugitive apartment, angels with their wings, clipped, gunning for the love that's ours. You know, great line. What can you tell me about that song?
It's just really the kind of the pinnacle of the message of the record, really. You know, like, I guess, you know, it sort of happened a bit on Brief History of Love that we didn't know we were writing a kind of, you know, for want of a better word, like a concept record. But, you know, they ended up the Love That's Ours is like a concept record, you know. It's about, you know, like I almost lost everything from doing this record. You know, like I'd become estranged from my family. You know, like I'd pretty much lost my wife. You know, like, you know, all my ties to London had gone. You know, and you know, LA is a fun place, but it's a very dark place, and it can take you, if you're not strong enough, you can lose yourself very, very quickly. It's not for the lighthearted. It's a tough city, you know, and you know, and I did almost lose myself, and maybe I was strung out, and I was a little bit I'd lost my path, and that song really is, you know, like, you know, turn the ship around, we're too good to be drifting. And it's almost like an apology to my wife, and, you know, saying like, you know, we are this is my home. I need to be safe and sound, and I need to the dancing with these vultures in my fugitive apartment is, these sirens, these terrible, sirens luring me, not just girls. I'm talking more metaphorically, like everything kind of, luring me and trying to take the love that is mine and my family's and my wife's, not, the kind of the parasites that and I guess I was shacked up in a fugitive apartment where I was hiding from something, so the whole record is my ticket home, I guess,
Yeah, and because of that, in hindsight, do you think moving to LA was a mistake for you, or was there some positives?
I think that it was a process that needed to happen for me, and I think that as difficult as it is, and as difficult as it was, and I'm definitely here, making up for lost relationships and making up for lost time with my family and my wife, and I think it was a very important mission for me to do, and I think that if I hadn't have done it, I think that I wouldn't have got this record, and then without this record, I wouldn't be comfortable and fulfilled as I feel right now. So as difficult as it was, and as strange and as beautiful and as ugly and crazy as the whole experience was, I think that I don't regret a second of it, because it's made me a fuller human being, stronger human being. I luckily didn't lose everything. I still have everything. I'm happily married with a newborn baby, and a beautiful record, singing about how, I'm alive and I have hope and future with my life. It's an extremely cathartic experience for me, and maybe I could have shaved off a couple of years, but I guess that wasn't up to me.
Well, Robbie, everything happens for a reason. You have to do some of these things. And I'm glad you got through it. My favorite song on the album is "Love Spins on Its Axis."
Oh, thank you.
I think it's fantastic. What can you tell me about the genesis of that track?
Well, it came from a drum beat that Jamie Hintz from The Kills gave me to try and write a song around. I was having a moment where I needed some inspiration, and he's like, "Look, I did this the other day. I don't think I'm going to use it." And he played it. I was like, "All right, give me that beat." You know what I mean? I took the beat, went off to my studio, and I was like, and I just wrote the song, and it just, one of the songs just spilled out. And I had this kind of slight concept of writing a love song, a fight love song, like love made the world go round, with this love's revolution. You know what I mean? And I thought it was quite interesting about having a revolution, but also the world revolving, or love makes the world go round, revolving, revolution. I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. And then I thought, like, love spins on its axis, the perfect revolution. I thought it was like a kind of interesting sort of play on words. And I just sort of was hoping that my Clash influence came out in the verses a bit. And it's just a big tune, and it's a big tune, as in like big tune, Big Pink, big tune. I think we need them as the Big Pink, and this is one of them. It's it has that kind of bombastic nature that Domino's had, I feel, and proud of that one. And Jamie T sang all over it and played guitar on it, so I got Jamie Hintz and Jamie T in there, and he added just an incredible sense of kind of punk ethos, and I'm very proud of that song.
What song on the album do you feel most connected to?
I say Safe and Sound. I think that it's the one that that's why I call the album The Love That's Ours, because it's the lyric from the second verse on that record. I just feel like it was a difficult area for me to write in a piano ballad. Like, I've never done that before. So it's like, for me to pull off a piano ballad with a kind of slightly kind of punk, from a punk rock band or whatever we are, whatever, to do a piano ballad and having the lyrics being so refined and so on point. I'm just so proud of that 4 minutes of music. It's just, I feel it's so successful as a piece of music. And the fact that it's almost like a third party involved, like the fact that I'm attributed to that song, it makes me so proud, and I see it as its own entity. And, I'm just, I sort of think that I can't imagine that I would ever be able to write another song as good as that.
No, it's a great track. It really surprised me when it came along.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the running order of the album.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know where the hell that song came from.
Are you happy how much that your sound has evolved musically from the last 2 albums on this record?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I just feel like because I'd taken such time in understanding what I wanted to try and evolve in how I wanted to evolve, I feel that I achieved that without losing the essence of the Big Pink. So I'm just happy that it's the Big Pink, but it's better produced, it's better written, it's just us much better than we've ever been, in my opinion. And it's definitely an elevated sound, but it is still true to the essence of what we started doing, I feel, which is where I wanted it to land.
Big Pink have announced an album release party in London in October, and you'll also be going on tour with Las Vegas for some shows in the Barrowlands.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like with London show, we're doing a free show at the new Outernet building, the Denmark Street and Tottenham Court Road. This venue called the Lower Third, and it's going to be a small show. It's free tickets. So hopefully it's going to be pretty crazy. And we're going to do that one as a kind of release for fans, around the release of the album. And so I'm super excited about that. And then the Las Vegas show is just that, like, James is a friend of mine, and he actually DM'd me. It was just strange. He was like, "How are you feeling about some shows?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, doing some shows." And he goes, "Would you consider coming on at the end of the show and end of our show and doing a couple of songs with us if we, 2 bands on the stage at the same time?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "But if we do that, we're doing Geraldine together." And he was like, "Hell yeah." so we're doing Geraldine together, which is like a dream of mine to sing that song. To do it with him would be brilliant. So we're going to do that. And to do that at the Barrowlands is just going to be just genius. So we're doing, I think the 26th of November in London. And then we have our own show, a headlining show at the Moth Club on the 9th of December. And then we've got a few shows, Leeds, Manchester, Sheffield, I think, on the way up to Barrowlands on this. And then just before this, on the way up on the 17th, I think it's December show. So a nice little run at the end of the year.
It's the beginning of a new chapter for the Big Pink. So what ambitions do you have going forward?
I have so much faith in this record, and I just, the landscape has changed a lot since we came out, over 10 years ago. And it's like, I just want to get back on tour as much as possible. I've got to get this record out. It's a difficult terrain for a band that's been, because when we first came out, Spotify didn't even exist. So it's a whole new mindset for me, to get my head around. So it's like, what I can control, I can't control going viral on TikTok, but what I can control is I can control the concerts and playing live. We've practiced so much to get the live songs perfect. And I'm just excited just to get out on the road. I want to do it all. I want to go back to America. We're doing the James Corden show, the Late Late Show in October. I've got 2 shows in LA, 1 show in New York for Halloween this year. But I just want to be on the road as much as possible next year. I want to get back, Glastonbury. I want to Coachella. I want it all. I just want to get back on the stage as much as possible, because I feel we've got the record to support it. So I just want to make sure that we're taking every opportunity we possibly can.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to your memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Best memories. Maybe Baby Says, The Kills. It was like a song that reminded me about my friendship with Jamie, you know, and how beautiful that song is. It's just drips with so much intense emotions, and it hit a time when, you know, we were both very confused about our lives, and you know, it was just a lovely little soundtrack to that kind of part of my life. So we could go with that one.
Out of all the music in your collection, which band or artist do you have the most albums by?
Probably Metallica. Yeah, I still own the vinyl. I got every vinyl album and singles.
And what would be your favorite?
I'd say probably Justice for All. I would say.
I must go down the Metallica route, because I've only really listened to the Black Album. You know, they weren't really my thing.
Yeah,
I do like some of the stuff.
That was my window in, was the Black Album, but then I went back to the early records. But once it catches you, you're in. You know.
Well, what one would you recommend me to start with?
I think you're in the Black Album. Just keep with that one for a bit, and then go into, like, you know, Master of Puppets and Justice for All. They're the next ones you go into, you know, and then get on to Ride the Lightning, you know, or Kill 'Em All, you know, like they're a bit of the earlier ones. But yeah, those are I'd say that was a good journey through Metallica.
Last one, Robbie. What song or album is your guilty pleasure?
Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way.
Really? Absolutely
love it. Yeah, I can't stop listening to it. And we listened to it this morning. Tell me why. It's just, I mean, my daughter also loves it. She dances around. We were literally, and weirdly, Jamie Hinson's living with me he's coming over from LA. So we had him. He'll hate me for saying this, but to blow his cool. But we had me, him, and my wife and my daughter listening to, you know, tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why. I'm a pop slut. I love pop. Like, there's lots of pop stuff I absolutely love. You know, like I'm big into, like, you know, like what's it called? Camille Cabello. I love, you know, like, I love Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus. I love all that kind. You know, don't get me started. I can embarrass myself for hours. You know?
Well, Robbie, that was my questions finished.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. No problem.
Thanks very much, Robbie. Right. Again, good luck with the album.
Dude. Thank you, man.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.